Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys don't know me, if you're new to my channel, my name is glairecartago. I make videos about international students and I also do vlogs sometimes. So I am back again for another video for you guys. This is something that you come across when you start applying for or you start doing your application for your study permit. So before I start, I just want to say that this is going to be a lengthy video, I think. So if I were you, I would grab a pen and paper, something to take down notes of anything that I might say something important, or just screenshot this video or whatever you guys like. And just a disclaimer, the information that I am about to tell you guys is not in any way considered or will be considered an official guide for making a letter of explanation. I am just merely explaining things out of my personal experience and some Googling research skills that I got. And so all I'm saying is that I'm not in any way expert, nor am I working in an immigration office or whatever. Without further ado, let us begin. So we're gonna talk three things today. First one is we will start with what is letter of explanation. The second one are the guide questions. And lastly are the tips and other comments that I have for you guys. So yeah, let's start with the first one. So what is letter of explanation? So letter of explanation, or sometimes known as SOP or the statement of purpose, or some other people call it cover letter. Those are basically the same thing, but the Immigration of Canada uses the term LOE, which is the letter of explanation. So what is LOE? So according to the website of Immigration of Canada, letter of explanation, this letter helps the visa officer to understand you and your goals. It explains why you want to study in Canada and that you understand the responsibilities as a student. You should include this letter if you decide to apply for a study permit even though you are exempt. So this is like a letter to the immigration officer about some things about you. The LOE doesn't need to be notarized or anything like that. Basically just a simple letter that you want to address to the immigration officer, whatever it is that you want to explain further. But I'm going to be discussing later on what it is that you want to share under that LOE. To answer the question, if it is required, it is not required. Some people are not required, but if I were you, I would include this anyway. On your application, you usually upload this under the optional documents. So is there a specific format? Well, in my personal experience, I know a lot of people do it in a narrative way. Whatever it is that you're comfortable with, as long as you answer all of the questions, as long as you are able to relay all the information that you want to give to the officer, I guess that's okay. So for the second thing that we're going to talk about is the guide questions. What are the things that you want to put in your LOE? What are the topics? What can you include? What can you not include? So these are basically the questions that you might want to answer in your LOE. For these guide questions, I have put them in order so that you guys can make a narrative out of it. It's like you're just gonna interconnect everything to make it into a one big narrative form. So the first one is, what's your educational history? After all, we are applying for a study permit, so this is the perfect way to start the letter. So you talk about your educational background. Do you have a bachelor's degree? Did you recently finish high school? And your course, if you want to include your grade, that's totally up to you. Any experience related to your education, I think that you should include it. For the second question, what is your employment history? So after you talk about your educational background, you can move on to the next narrative, which is about your employment history. Talk about where you work, how long you work, and the things that you have accomplished, the things that you have learned, and why you think that leads you to wanting to study in Canada or wanting to study further. So you might want to say something like, I'm really terrible at giving example, but for example, you're working at marketing, for example. You want to say, I've been working in this industry and it made me realize that I'm very interested in knowing more about foreign market strategies, and so blah 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 blah. Yeah, something like that. You talk about your educational history, you talk about your employment history. Now the immigration officer would want to know why you want to study in Canada. So you wanna be able to tell the immigration officer why Canada. Like, why did you choose Canada out of like other countries? Well, you might want to go with, well, Canada has a very high standard when it comes to education, especially in the line that I'm wanting to pursue. When you're writing in this part, you might want to think about like, why did you choose Canada? Why not New Zealand? Why not Australia? And stuff like that. So yeah, for the fourth one, why did you choose this specific program? This part should be easy for you if you have chosen a program that is related to the one that you have back in your home country. So for example, in my case, back in my home country, I had a bachelor's degree of computer management and accounting. And then right now I am studying for post-degree in accounting. So in my LOE, what I wrote down was that I chose to study post-degree in accounting here in Canada because I've got a bachelor's degree of computer management and accounting. Because of my work history, I was able to realize that I wanted to pursue more in accounting field, and because I have that experience, I was able to realize that I was very good at it and that I could do more in my profession. That's the reason why I chose this program, because I think that it will really help me achieve my goals, my career goals. So see what I did there? So what I did was I connected the things that I said earlier about my educational history, which was my computer management accounting bachelor's degree, and then my work experience, and then now we're talking about why I chose to study in Canada and why I chose a specific program. So that's what I'm doing here. It's kind of like a narrative form, but at the same time you are answering the points, the perfect points for the perfect LOE. And so now let's go to the fifth guide question, which is why that specific school. So now we have talked about why Canada, why that specific program, and now you're going to talk about why that specific university or college. So here you're going to talk about why you decided to pick that college or university or that certain school. And it is kind of the same on how you answer and why you chose Canada. And so in this part, you may want to research some more about your school, and you can point out certain things. For example, you chose a program in the medicine field and your school is known to have a great nursing program, so you may want to include that in your LOE. Say something about this specific school is known for this and that. They are known to have best quality of education and therefore would be very beneficial on your part, that kind of thing. So yeah, so now that you've talked about all these things, so let's go to the next guide question, which is who's gonna finance your tuition and your living expenses. So in here you are gonna be specific about who is going to help you with your finances when it comes to your tuition and your living expenses. In here you might want to reassure the visa officer that you are capable financially of handling your expenses in the duration of your stay here in Canada. You cannot include it in your LOE that you will be working very hard to be able to pay for your tuition, because that is very doubtful and that is a big no-no for you guys to write. So you have to reassure the immigration officer that all your tuition is being shouldered by someone else, by yourself, and that you have the supporting documents to it. And so for example, if you're being sponsored by other relatives or other person and you will state on your LOE how would you receive the money, the arrangement for all of this. For example, how are you gonna live, where are you gonna get your living expenses. You can include the amount in this letter. You can include the tuition fee, how much is your tuition, what's your plan, how are you planning to pay for all of this tuition, who is sponsoring. All of these things you have to disclose, because the immigration officer would want to make sure that you are able and capable to finance your whole duration here in Canada. You should be able to not have a problem when it comes to financing yourself. Okay, so the next one is, so what is your goal? So what's the opportunity for you? What is your goal? You have to have a goal of why you have a plan on studying in Canada. So for our next guide question, you talk about your plans after your graduation. In here, this is one of the most critical parts of the letter. You want to make sure that you have a plan of going back to your home country and not staying here in Canada. you don't ever mention anything about staying here in Canada after your study. I would talk about how I would go back to my country because I have all of my families in there. I have no one here in Canada. So in my case, what I wrote in my LOE, after my studies, I'm gonna go back to the Philippines because I have all of my family there. I have no one here. Well, I have my grandmother, but all of my immediate relatives, you know, my mom, my dad, my brothers, sisters, are all in the Philippines. I also wrote there that I have plans on continuing our family business and other stuff like that, that I'm just here in Canada because I wanted to get an international exposure about certain things in business. And that's why when I'm done studying, there's no reason for me to stay here anymore, and I would just go back to the Philippines and continue where I left off. So you want to make sure that you have the reason to go back to the Philippines. You may want to attach in your documents when you submit, if you have a property named under you, if you have a business named under you, that would be very helpful. But if you don't have those things, don't worry, it's not all about that. You just really have to prove, and you just really have to convince the immigration officer that you don't have any plans on staying here after your study here in Canada, and you have a plan on going back to your home country. So that's like the most important thing in this letter, I think, for me. Yeah, that you have to make sure that you're sending out a message to the immigration officer that you're just really here in Canada to study and not to stay after graduation, because that causes a real red flag to them. I'd be very careful. And for the last guide question, if there's anything unusual about your application, for example, you have a different name on your birth certificate than your diploma, if you don't have a diploma but you have graduated but something happened with your diploma and stuff like that, this is the place to disclose that one. So for example, you have a different name on your birth certificate, then you can disclose that on the LOE, the reasons behind that one. Then I think that would be very helpful if you could include the documentation as well. So yeah, anything that you think that might be of a problem or that might cause any confusion with the immigration officer, then this is the place to clear things up. Those are like 9 guide questions that I have for you. So let's head over to the tips and other comments that I have. I would like to emphasize this again because I really think that this is very important. Make sure that you are stating on your LOE that you have a plan on returning to your home country after your graduation, and that please don't mention anything about working in Canada right after your graduation. So if I were you, I would just really stay away from that sentence. I have a plan on staying after graduation. I have a plan on applying for this and that. Because think about it, if you want to stay here in Canada, study permit is not the right path for you. You could have gone to express entry or like any other thing that could lead you to permanent residency. So just don't mention that kind of thing. And another thing is just stay genuine and true to all of the words that you're gonna say. And I know you're probably wondering how many pages of this LOE should you make. There's no specific pages required, but I think it's always, you know, minimum of 1 page. It's not always a bad thing if you would go 2 pages, because I did a 2-page LOE, Joey did as well, and other people that I know. So it's not necessarily a bad idea when you have a 2-page LOE. But yeah, I got to the point. Be honest, because these immigration officers, that's their job, that's what they do. They read all of this letter of explanation every single day, and so they would know if you were trying to make things up or if you just copy pasted these things from the internet. But anyway, I know you guys are very curious about the formatting. I will be including the links of some format that I saw on the internet, so just follow those links. You'll see how to address like the whole format, your name, how do you address the embassy, how do you address yourself, something like that. But yeah, just refrain from copying and pasting. It's gonna be bad for you. It's very time consuming if you'll get rejected because of that. But yeah, hopefully all of this has been very helpful. Again, this is not a requirement, but it doesn't hurt if you will include one. So yeah, that will be all for this video. If there's anything that I missed out on mentioning, please don't hesitate to put that down on the comment section below and help out each other. Thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video if you guys think this is very helpful. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you guys on my next video.